Hello there. Before starting part 3 of this video series, let's give a quick recap of part 1 and part 2. In the first part, we were able to successfully set up the Pi backend of pyvisa library, and we can verify that by running pyvisa-info. And as you can see, the Pi backend is able to access these GPIB resources through the Linux-GPIB package. In the second part of this video series, we were able to copy the firmware file to the correct Ubuntu directory so that Ubuntu is able to upload firmware to this interface whenever we plug it into the USB port of our computer. So here is the and then I plug it in. As you see, now the firmware is uploaded and the interface is ready to use. In part 3, we connect this end of the interface to our Keysight instrument so that we are able to finally access our Keysight instrument. As you can see, the GPIB end of my USB-GPIB interface is now connected to the talker/listener GPIB port of this Keysight instrument. The pyvisa library has been set up properly. Ubuntu uploads firmware to our USB-GPIB interface automatically whenever we plug it into the USB port of our PC. And lastly, the GPIB end of our USB-GPIB interface is now connected to Keysight instrument. So it is natural that we run these Python commands in Python interpreter in an attempt to communicate with Keysight instrument. And here, the only change that I made to those commands is I added the Pi option since I only set up the Pi backend of pyvisa. And so I run, and here I get a series of errors. Plus, I can see that the GPIB interface is not listed here. It seems that under my user, libgpib does not have permission to access this device node. And therefore, the first thing I do is to double check whether GPIB0 device node is indeed created under /dev. And I take a list of all GPIB device nodes in a /dev. And here I can see that a number of GPIB device nodes have been created under dev, including GPIB0. Next, let's take a look at the rules file that is responsible for creating these GPIB device nodes. The rules file is located in /etc, /udev, rules.d. And now we open the file. Here, it implies that all users under the user group named GPIB have permission to access GPIB device nodes. And so the next thing we should do is to verify whether the GPIB user group exists or not. To verify whether the user group named GPIB exists, we run this. And so since we don't get any output, that means this user group named GPIB does not exist. And therefore, we need to create one. We need to add one. Add it. And the next step would be adding our username to this user group. And this is also done. So far, we made sure that libgpib has permission to access GPIB0 device node. On the other hand, we also need to make sure that the board type of our USB-GPIB interface is linked with GPIB0 device node so that the connection, the communication is two-way. So that way, GPIB0 can act like a point of contact between the USB-GPIB interface and libgpib. To do that, we need to open the GPIB configuration file located in etc. This configuration file is used by libgpib. And here, as you can see, the board type ni_PCI is linked with GPIB0 device node. And we want to change this to our board type. And that would be Agilent 82357. So what we can do, we can just run a single command, acd command, to do that replacement. All right, let's restart the computer to make sure that the changes we made will take effect. Now that we restarted the computer, let's verify that our Keysight instrument is indeed listed as a pyvisa resource. Let's open Python interpreter and then import pyvisa, and then open Resource Manager. Py backend. And then let's see the list of the resources. So we still get the errors, but not the permission denied error anymore. And here I can see that my Keysight instrument GPIB address is listed here. And I can open that resource. Let's call it VNA. And here I paste the GPIB address. And then I ask the VNA to ID itself. Bingo. Here I can see that my Keysight instrument can indeed be identified by pyvisa. You can verify for yourself that this GPIB address corresponds to your Keysight instrument. You can do it by going to your instrument, changing the GPIB address on your instrument, and then retrying list resources command. And in that case, you should see a different GPIB address. Here, for the purpose of sharing the screen of my Keysight instrument directly with you guys, I installed a software called Real VNC Viewer and launched Tide VNC Server on my instrument before that. So I connected to my instrument, and here is the screen. And I click on System, Configure. Here, there is a GPIB related option. I click on it. I have the GPIB address. I change it to something other than 16, click OK, and then I retry the list resources command. And here, as you can see, now the GPIB address updated. I am still getting an error message which says invalid descriptor, and the error message repeats for 60 times. And it doesn't seem to stop me from communicating with my Keysight instrument, and so I can live with it. However, I will be looking for a neat solution without trying to suppress the error message. If any of the viewers has any suggestions to deal with this error message in a neat way, you're absolutely welcome to put your suggestion in the comments below. I will be working on a video which is the fourth part in this series, which is going to be a bonus part In that part, I'm going to measure the reflections off of a patch antenna, and the data is going to be directly imported to Python using pyvisa. Stay tuned.